Jayson Tatum says he can be the face of the NBA. We decide if he's right and who will be the face of the NBA if it's not him. Then we talk some MVP. Who we got right now? Who are the sleepers for the award and why Tatum and Anthony Edwards are not in the discussion? Then we're going to give you one underrated team in the NBA who can make a run to the NBA Finals. You are not going to want to miss that. And all this is coming up next on the Brickhouse. What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Brickhouse, partner of House Call Sports. I'm here with Joe and CISO. My name is Matt, and today we're talking the face of the NBA, underrated teams, and the MVP award. But before we get into all of that, I want to shout out the sponsor of this video, and that is Lids. Lids.com, the number one place for all hats, all teams, all styles, and all brands. Obviously, you got hats, there's shirts, and there's jerseys, and there's much more from official leagues and brands. They ship free to any store or on $50 orders online, and they've got new codes up every day because they are trying to save you some money, people. I can't even tell you how many hats I've got from Lids in my life. Their brick and mortar store in the 5th Avenue Mall in Anchorage, Alaska was a staple of my childhood, and now their website is a staple of my adulthood. So hit the link in the description to get your favorite teams, favorite gear at Lids. Lids, any team, anytime, anywhere. Now, let's get into this face of the NBA discussion because there's been a lot of talk about this lately as current legends and faces of the NBA, LeBron James, Steph Curry, and Kevin Durant are all 35 and over and all still playing remarkably well, but are all obviously close to the finish line of their careers. And it has raised the question, who is the next face of the NBA? Celtic star Jayson Tatum had something to say about that. He was asked this question in an interview last week, and he said regarding if he would be the next face of the NBA, quote, "I feel like it's mine to take. I do feel like if we win a championship, it would be more distinguished and clear, but I understand I am in the short list for sure." So, Joe, I'm kicking it to you, man. Can Jayson Tatum become the face of the NBA? And if not, who can?
I mean, it's going to be interesting. The issue with Jayson Tatum is he's not as flashy as the other guys. He's just not. You think about like every major face of the NBA. Jordan was iconic. Everything he did was amazing. Kobe, same way. You think about, how LeBron has looked and the way he's been able to control the game, highlight reel, dunks, some of the best, memorable moments we've ever seen in regular season and playoff, as well as, in the finals. It's all LeBron, right? It's insane. The issue with Jayson Tatum is that his game is fundamentals. It's very much controlled. It's very much in rhythm. And the funny thing is that it reminds me a little bit of your guy. Tim Duncan was a very fundamental basketball player, but he was never the face of the NBA. He was there, and it's kind of a travesty to think that the best player at that position all time didn't get his flowers and still doesn't get his flowers. I mean, he just doesn't talk that much. I mean, still to this day, if you were to mention to any casual basketball fan that was born in the 2000s, whenever, and thinks about top basketball players, Tim Duncan is often left off the list. And it's because people don't think about him as what he was, which is a great basketball player. I think Jayson Tatum is that. I think he's always going to be that. He just doesn't have those flashy, between the leg dribble, behind the back, Jason Williams type assists or Luka Doncic type, moves or anything like that, or what Shea's doing. I think that honestly, the face of the NBA is between Luka Doncic, Donovan Mitchell, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Those are my three right now. They're young guys. They're all 24, 25, just like Tatum is, but their games are flashier. They do more. They're more polarizing type players. Tatum's very quiet. Tatum is, fundamental. He doesn't really do a lot of flashy plays. His step back three is really cool and everything like that, but everyone's got a step back three. He just happens to be, a very large presence, and he does his job very well. I think that a lot of people also look at his stat line, which really isn't indicative of a good player. I mean, you think about some of the best players we have seen, they sometimes will sacrifice offensive output for the betterment of the team. I think Jayson Tatum has done that on occasion, and I think the Celtics are better when he does look to pass a little bit, to take a little bit of that load off him from scoring, especially when he's got the support. So do I think he could be? Winning a championship might help him. Unfortunately, with the team he's got, there's always going to be, but look who he had. right? Like you could kind of do that with LeBron, when you think about his championships early on. You had Wade, you had Bosch, and everyone needs somebody else, right? There is no Batman without Robin. There is no Justice League without Superman. Like, you need these other guys, right? And I think that honestly, we sometimes discount that. But yeah, right now, I just see him as maybe the fourth guy. I mean, he's top 5 for sure. He's on the short list. He's not wrong. I just don't know if he's ever going to be considered that guy because he doesn't have that, like, LeBron tomahawk from the free throw line kind of, flying in, or like Wade underneath with his arms out as, LeBron slams it down. There's no photo of that of him. And if there is, it's always backed up with, oh, Bam rejected him in the bubble. And they lost the game, right? Like there's that, right? We see it, the yin and yang of it a little too much. So I think he's on the short list. He's right there. I don't know if it's his for the taking. I think he has to do a lot more lifting than Luka and SGA and Donovan Mitchell may have to because of how they play the game.
Right. Your list was very interesting to me. Donovan, I did not have Donovan Mitchell and even SGA really even on my radar because I think I don't think Donovan's going to win enough. I don't think he's going to win enough to be the face of the NBA. And he's just, I don't know, something about him. He just doesn't, he's great, but he doesn't really have that it factor to me. And then SGA, he's kind of like Tim Duncan too. He just doesn't say nothing. You get the dope Instagram captions, but you don't really get anything else other than that, So
I would have put Ja on the list, but I mean, he's never playing and he's polar, he's in the news for the wrong reasons. SGA, when you watch that man play, it speaks for itself. Like, I think no doubt. It's not, it is flashy. It is over the top. It is, just in the air. Yeah, it's a huge splash. And I think that's why he's on my list. I think SGA, especially when we get into, some of the other topics here in a little bit, I'll explain a little bit more, but he is very much in the conversation. And if you don't think so, go watch some SGA highlights. It'll tell you everything you need to know. Like, the guy is there.
There's no doubt his game is 100% face of the NBA game. It's just, I don't know if he's got like the demeanor or if he even because that's something that you kind of have to want to have, right? Is the face of the NBA. Like, LeBron came in, you knew he was going to be the face of the NBA because he just had that demeanor and he had that personality, right? So yeah, those are interesting choices. Obviously, I agree with Luka. Luka could easily be the face of the NBA.
I went young.
I went young. I mean, it has to be. It kind of has to be at this point,
it has to be
because of where everybody else is at, So, those were a couple interesting selections. I like the thought process behind them. Ciso, I'm going to you, man. What do you think? Can Jayson Tatum be the face of the NBA? And if not, who's going to be?
I think he can. I feel like, in my opinion, I think he's set up to be the face of the NBA. Kobe Bryant was one of his mentors. He's been playing on the big stage ever since he came inside of the NBA. He plays for one of the most popular franchises in NBA history, one of the most successful franchises in NBA history, one of the biggest markets in the NBA. And he got the game to match it. The thing is the aura. Like, I think that's what he's missing. Like the aura, like MJ had, like LeBron has. It's just that aura. I feel like it reminds me. I feel like he can be. He's just missing that. But I don't think people thought Steph was gonna be one of the faces of the NBA.
That's true.
But I feel like Jayson Tatum falls into that category. I feel like once he wins a ring, I think he has a better chance of being the face of the NBA. But I think it's between him and I think Anthony Edwards got what it takes.
That's the name.
I think he just got. I think if we talking about aura, I can just see it. Like he confidence. He gonna talk a lot of trash. I feel like, but right now, Jayson Tatum, everything is lined up for him to be the face of the NBA. It's just he has to some way, like Joe said, he got some lifting to do. I think he just got to figure out how to get his aura, if that makes sense.
He's an iconic game, man.
Yeah,
he needs some sort of iconic moment, and there just hasn't been. He's been on the losing side of every iconic moment that he's been involved in.
Yeah.
And he's had a couple of great games. Like, what was it? Game 6 in Milwaukee, he dropped 45. He had that Game 7 last year against Philly. You know, he dropped 50. But again, those aren't NBA Finals performances. And if he would have capped off those performances with an NBA Finals after that, we would look at those performances and be like, man, that's when Tatum really, really, decided to move that upper echelon. Right. That's it. Because like LeBron game 6 against Boston, right, where he had that 45.
That mug, bro.
Even in Game 7 in that series, and then in the final series, he didn't have a game as good as that, right? But that's looked on as a moment because he went on and won the NBA championship, right? So yeah, Jayson Tatum's going to have to have moments like that. But honestly, I'm going to disagree with you, Ciso. I don't think Jayson Tatum can become the face of the NBA because I don't think Jayson Tatum is the level of player that those other guys vying for the title are. Like Luka, for example, like. Listen, I know that Luka doesn't have the playoff success, but I think we can all sit here and say, like, Luka Doncic is better than Jayson Tatum. I think we can all sit here and say, Luka is better because we know basketball. We watch basketball. We see the game. We see the numbers. It's like, okay, Luka Doncic is better, right? And I just don't think, kind of like you mentioned, Ciso, I don't think that aura aspect is like developable. I don't know if that's a word, developable, but I don't know if he can like get that. I think that's something that you're just born with. And Luka, for example, he has that. Like, he's got that charisma. He's got that aura. And someone like Anthony Edwards, he also has that charisma and aura. And so I think if Tatum, he'd have to be a part of like a dynasty, like them winning like 3 out of 5 titles for him to really be considered. And I just don't think the Celtics are going to do that, partially because I think Tatum's like the 6th or the 7th best player in the world. And, that's not really an insult. He's one of the 6th or 7th best players and 6 or 7 best players in the NBA. It's just the 6th or 7th best player in the NBA very rarely becomes the face of the NBA. So I just don't think, and teams with that type of guy as their best player, in my opinion, aren't going to be a half-decade long championship run type of team. So, but I have a guy who can be better than a top 6 or 7 guy. And I have a guy who can not only be the best player in the league, but his ceiling is the best player ever.
Spurs glazing incoming. Spurs glazing incoming.
Listen, ladies and gentlemen, you can call it glazing. You can call it whatever you want. I'm going to call it facts.
It is.
The next face of the NBA is Victor Wembanyama, ladies and gentlemen. He's not winning in year 1, nor should he be, nor did any of the greats drafted into terrible situations. But again, what did I say at the beginning of the year? For those who don't know, obviously I'm a Spurs fan. Yeah, whoop-de-freaking-do. Everybody knows that by now. Okay? But listen, it has been frustrating to watch this year for sure. I'm not going to deny that. And Wemby right now is definitely not without flaws. Okay, he turns the ball over way too damn much. He forces things, whether it be passes or tries to overhandle at times because his arms are so damn long. It makes his dribble moves really slow and he can get his pocket picked. Okay, his feel for the NBA game isn't there yet. Obviously, he needs to get bigger and stronger. He's still a bad volume 3-point shooter, even though he's been better lately. He'll miss some bunnies around the rim too. But guess what? 20, 10, 3 assists, 3 blocks, and a steal per game. And this is the absolute worst he's going to be. Like, this is the worst version of Victor Wembanyama we're going to see until he's 40 years old, So and this is the absolute worst team he's going to have until he's 40 years old. So, but like I said at the beginning of the year, I don't expect wins. I just want to see flashes. Having a 5-by-5 game versus LeBron James and Anthony Davis after being an assist short of 1 the game before, that's a flash. A 20-point triple-double with blocks, that's a flash. Along with numerous other games, stretches and games and moments, we're seeing things we've never seen before, okay? And that's what we saw early in the career from all the other faces of the NBA before him. Steph Curry, we even saw flashes of that. LeBron, obviously. Kobe, Shaq, Jordan, Hakeem, Magic, Bird, Kareem, Wilt, Bill Russell. That's where Victor Wembanyama will end up. And sure, it sounds crazy now because he's on a team that's 11-46 with the worst record in the West and the 3rd worst record in the NBA. But give it a couple years and everybody will know. And I'm going to be sitting right here with one big smile on my face, knowing that the face of my franchise is also the face of the NBA. What you got, fellas?
I mean, you're right. I discounted it because he's brand new. I feel like, you need a few years. But yeah, you're right. There's been flashes. I mean, I've been on the Wembanyama train just as long as you have, essentially. As soon as I was like, he's a little lanky. As long as he can stay healthy. And guess what? he's stayed healthy. He has played very, very well. You've seen exactly what you wanted to see as a Spurs fan. And if you're just a basketball fan in general, how can you not like the idea of Victor Wembanyama being the face of the NBA for the next, 10 years? I'm already salivating thinking about it because the guy is going to be absolutely insane.
Yeah, I can see it because like right now, I think he's top 10 jersey sales right now, right? He's up there.
Yep.
Like as a rookie, that's insane. And then
I'm about 50% of those sales, by the way. That's me.
You've got every limited edition jersey, everything you can possibly get.
You just went on lids and stocked up.
Man, went on lids, bought one for my family, my friends, my coworkers, bought one for everyone.
I mean, when is the last time we have seen someone who is not, a United, like born in America, be the face of the NBA?
Well, that's what we're going to be.
That's insane.
Basically dealt with right now, because right now all the best players, we didn't even mention, Giannis, who could obviously, if he goes on a run, he could be the face of the NBA. Jokic doesn't really want to be the face of the NBA because
he's all about partying and racing his horses, man. He plays basketball so he can keep his horse business going.
This is a job for Jokic.
It's really a 9 to 5. He's not happy being here. He's just really, really good at it. And then obviously Luka, Giannis, Jokic, we got Wemby, we got a ton of guys who can end up becoming that. And most of them, Embiid, like we got a bunch of guys who aren't from America who could end up being the face of the the number one American basketball league, so it's crazy. And like you mentioned, Joe, I don't think there's ever been like a non-American face of the NBA. Like it's been like KD and Curry kind of, but mostly LeBron and Kobe and Shaq and Jordan and Bird and Magic. And it's like that. It's always been an American born player. So yeah, I think we're kind of entering a new kind of realm in the NBA. But I mean, it's definitely coming. But again, part of the reason why I say Wemby is because he does things that, are just like freak of nature type things that we've never seen before. And all those guys that I just mentioned are the same. It's like Steph Curry, his shooting is out of this world, like we've never seen anything like that before. LeBron James, the athleticism and passing and scoring, the all-around combination, we never seen anything like that before. Kobe, we've seen it like that before with Jordan, but Kobe's mentality was just such a dog mentality that everybody could relate. Shaq, we never seen anybody that dominant in the paint before. Jordan, we've never seen anybody like him before. Magic, we never seen a 6'9" point guard be able to dish like him before. Larry Bird, we never seen, a 6'10" guy shoot the ball from behind his head, that, probably the best shooter until Reggie Miller. So it's things that we've never seen before. That's what the face of the NBA is a lot of the time. And I think Wemby is going to be that coming up here pretty soon. Obviously, it's not this year, but it's going to be coming up. Coming up here pretty soon, and I'm going to be excited about it. That's it.
Yeah, within the next 5 years for sure.
Oh yeah,
no doubt.
I'm very interested in what the Spurs do this offseason, like draft, what they're going to do with some free agency stuff. I mean, I am watching the Spurs very closely because I am as invested as I have ever been in a team that is not based in Boston.
Yeah.
When it comes to the
obviously
NBA.
I am. Obviously, I am too. Right now, I've turned myself into a Raptors fan. I've turned myself into a Grizzlies hater and a Nets hater, because the Spurs have the Raptors' top 6 protected pick. So if the Raptors start winning games, right, if they get to like 8 or 9, like worst team in the NBA, because right now I think they're at 7. If they can get to like 8 or 9 worst team in the NBA, and that gives the Spurs a little leeway, right? If the Raptors don't fall in that top 6, then they get the Raptors pick. So the Spurs could have a top 3 pick and then another top 10 pick in the draft. Obviously, all the cap space they want, where they could, potentially go get a star, because obviously we've heard rumors about, stars wanting to go play there and just players wanting to go play there because of Wemby, So I think we're for as talent bereft as we are right now, besides Wemby, I think we could end up in a really, really good position, even by the start of next season. So yeah, from a Spurs fan perspective, I'm excited, even though we're 11-46, which sounds crazy considering we just went 20 years.
I believe you said that out loud.
Yeah, it sounds crazy considering.
Twice. You said it twice out loud. He continues to say it.
We went 20 years winning a championship like every other year, basically, and now we're 11-46, and I'm excited, which sounds crazy, but again, it's all about perspective. It is all about perspective, and I think we're on the right track. That's all that matters for us right now, and all that matters is Wemby's going to be the face of the NBA. That's all that really matters. But let's go to a different discussion now. Let's talk some league MVP. And early in the year, it looked like it was going to be for sure Sixer star Joel Embiid, as he was dominating the league early. But due to injury and the new 65-game minimum rule, he is officially out of the running, leaving a few notable candidates for award. But I want to take this from a couple different angles. So first of all, Ciso, who is your MVP right now? And second of all, who is a sleeper that could get into this race down the stretch?
My MVP, I mean, a lot of people not going to agree with this. I think the award should be based on the most valuable player, the player that if they're not playing, their team not winning. That's how I judge it. And I think it's Jokic. Like, I mean, it gotta be. Like, look at how many games would they win? Where would they be sitting without Jokic? They 2 games out of first place. I mean, it looks like they're coasting right now, but they're 2 games out of first place in the Western Conference. Like, we know that this team is not nearly as good without Jokic. But a sleeper, I mean, I would say it's tough to say a sleeper because they're playing so well right now is SGA. I think he's a sleeper that I think he has the numbers. His team has the record, because I feel like that's how they vote. The numbers, the stats in the record, they don't base it off which player is needed by their team the most. So I think, in my opinion, I think Jokic is the most valuable player in the NBA, hands down, no question. Because I feel like we got guys like Jayson Tatum in the race, but without Jayson Tatum, the Celtics is still gonna win some games.
Yeah.
Be real. Let's be real. Even with SGA, like the OKC can still win some games without.
They got a good young team, yeah.
So it's like it's Jokic hands down to me, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard to argue with his numbers. Like, he's, last year he was 0.2 assists away from averaging a triple-double from the center spot. This year he's like 0.9 assists away from averaging a triple-double from the center spot. So obviously we saw what he can do in the playoffs last year. Like, the guy is just unbelievable. So yeah, I don't think you can go wrong with Jokic being the MVP. But Joe, I'm kicking it to you, man. What do you think? Who do you got right now for MVP, and who's a sleeper that you think can get into the race here down the stretch?
I think it's closer than a lot of people want to admit. All right, I'm going to go through some numbers real quick. I'm going to give you the numbers of my top 3. Number 1 right now is 30.8 points, 11.3 in rebounds, 6.4 assists, and 61.7% from the field. Number 2 right now is 26 points, 12.2 rebounds, 9.1 assists, 58.4% from the field. Number 3 right now is 34.3 points, 8.8 rebounds, 9.6 assists, 49.2% from the field. That is Giannis, Jokic, and Doncic.
Yeah,
that's
Giannis.
Your top 3.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. Giannis right now is 3rd in points, 6th in rebounds, 16th in assists, 9th in field goal percentage. Damn. Jokic is 13th in points, 4th in rebounds, 4th in assists, 12th in field goal percentage. Jeez. Luka is 1st in points, 18th in rebounds, 3rd in assists, and 54th in field goal percentage. Okay, like, these guys are the best, and I think that any of them right now can go. Here's the thing. Jokic, he's listed as active. Giannis is a game time decision. Luka is a game time decision. Luka has played 48 games.
Yeah.
Giannis has played 55, and Jokic has played 55 games. So at this point, when it comes down to it, you have to look at the games. And so that's why I have Luka as 3rd right now. I think that he could have an argument for 2nd. He just hasn't played as many games. There's still games to go. They could balance out. We're not really sure. But I have to give it to Giannis, even though I'm upset with how the Bucks have played. The reason they have won games, and I still feel that way, is because of Giannis. Giannis is carrying that team until they figure it out defensively, and he's going to continue to do that. And to think that we're giving so much credit to Jokic for almost having a triple-double, Giannis isn't far off. I mean, 6.4 assists, 11 and with 30 points, that is nuts, right?
On 62% shooting. Yeah, it's crazy.
I forgot about Giannis. Yeah, throw that Jokic take out the window now.
But when you talk about a dark horse, right? Like, there's a guy that I talked about a second ago, right? And this guy I mentioned in my Face of the NBA stuff, and everyone's like, I just don't know if he's got enough. Donovan Mitchell is actually my dark horse
having a great year
for the MVP, and he's got 28.4 points, 5.4 rebounds, 6.3 assists, 47 field goal percentage. So he's not on the same level. Here's where it gets interesting. Minimum of 30 minutes, right? That's what I went with. The minimum of 30 minutes. The second best defensive rating in the NBA is Donovan Mitchell.
Wow, there you go, Don.
So he not only is he putting up numbers that put him in the MVP conversation, because if you look at some of the lists online, he's in the top 10.
Yeah.
He's also playing some of the best defense in the NBA for a starter. So
second in the league in steals.
Yeah. So at that point, how is Donovan Mitchell not in the conversation? Right? Like you have to be considering him at some point. I know he's not, like I say, he's not 30 points, he's not double-double, he's not almost averaging a triple-double, but when you talk about a player that if you remove him from the lineup, how good is their team?
Yeah.
Without Donovan Mitchell, the Cavaliers are not the second best team in the NBA or in the East. They're not. They're just not. All right. They're not third. They're not fourth. They're somewhere back in the play-in.
That's why I'm worried about them in the playoffs, because
like Donovan Mitchell is the key to them.
Yep.
And we all know it, right? Like I think that the Nuggets can win some games without Jokic. I think he is vital for them for a playoff run. I think he's vital for them to make the playoffs, but I think they could win some games out. The Cavaliers are a lottery pick team, I think, without Donovan Mitchell. I mean, maybe that's a stretch, but that's how I feel, right?
No, they might be.
And then you think about but if you look at this right now, the top 4 in defensive rating are from 2 teams. You have Rudy Gobert at 1, Donovan Mitchell at 2, Max Strus at 3, and Anthony Edwards at 4.
Mm-hmm.
And that's people playing 30 minutes or more.
Damn, Max Strus.
Max Strus is number 2 at 107.5, or number 3 at 107.5.
That's 3 and D right there.
Mm-hmm. Yep. He's actually tied with Anthony Edwards in defensive rating at 107.5. So, I mean, I like Donovan Mitchell. I got a top 5 in MVP right now. It goes Giannis, Jokic, Luka, Donovan Mitchell, SGA. Mm-hmm. And the only reason I put Donovan Mitchell ahead of SGA, even though SGA is scoring more points and everything like that, they're relatively similar in all their other stats. They're not far off from each other. I think SGA has a little bit better field goal percentage. But SGA is outside the top 10 in defensive rating. Right? So Donovan Mitchell brings to you on both sides of the ball. He's a key cog to his team, and he's got Cleveland in a really, really good spot right now. If I remember correctly, let me double check the standings. He has Cleveland as the second team in the East, ahead of Milwaukee, ahead of the Sixers, ahead of the Knicks. Right, like that. This was a 5 seed last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So, like, let's
4
or 5. Yeah, because they played against the Knicks, who were the opposite.
I just can't believe you don't got Jayson Tatum in that top 5.
Yeah, I thought for sure I was going to hear some Tatum.
Like, the argument for Tatum, you can't look at numbers. You can't look. You have to look at how he fits in the team, what he does for the team, and it's very hard to argue sacrifice as an MVP candidate statistic, right? As like an argument. You can't he's sacrificing his numbers, the things to bolster his MVP candidacy for the betterment of the team. You can't. I cannot prove that to you, right? There's no tangible evidence I can give you outside of go watch some games. Yeah. You'll see what he does to make his team better. But like you said, if you remove Tatum from that thing, Jaylen Brown, Kristaps Porzingis, Derek White, Drew Holiday, Al Horford, like, they have the best roster. And he is the best player on that roster, but he's not the best player every given night, every single night on that roster.
Oh,
if you look at the stat sheet, if you were to look at the stat sheet, right, from a casual NBA fan perspective, there are nights where Jayson Tatum is not the best player based on the numbers. And in today's NBA, to win an MVP is numbers. You can be the best team, but if you're not the best player every single night of the best team, no one gives a shit. So that's why Jayson Tatum's not in my top 5.
Listen, the problem with Anthony Edwards being, in the MVP conversation as, the number one team in the West and Jayson Tatum being in the MVP conversation with the number one team in the East, we got too many damn options. Like, look at all these options. Yeah. Like, the options that we have, the numbers that they have is crazy. Like, it's the same problem we have with, people cheating on each other in relationships, because you can get on a dating app and you can see all these other options that you have, to cheat on your
crazy comparison.
Right? That, ladies and gentlemen, is why Matt is single.
Exactly why I'm single, right? Because I can't stay down with one person.
He can't uninstall Tinder from his phone.
Because there's too many damn
stop
options.
Swiping left, huh?
I got too many options. It's a problem. I got too many options. It's the same thing we got in the NBA. It's hard to get in the MVP conversation because there's too many options. There's way too many options to get in the MVP conversation. So listen, even somebody like Donovan Mitchell, who's on the 2 seed in the East, he's putting up 28 points per game, second in the league in steals. That's great. That ain't even good enough for top 3 or top 4, in my opinion. So listen, for me right now, I got Jokic. Shea, and Luka in that order, okay? But for me, it's very close with all those 3 to me, and I'm honestly cool with any order of those 3 that you want. I'm kind of just like CISO. I'm giving Jokic the best player in the world tiebreaker right now. Plus, Murray's missed 16 games. That's kind of an underrated storyline. Jamal Murray's missed 16 games, and they're just a game and a half behind behind OKC for the 2 seed and 2 games back of the 1 seed. So, plus, I mean, the guy just had 20, 15, and 15 on 100% shooting. I don't care. It's against the G League Wizards. Okay, that is a stupid stat line. That's a ridiculous stat line. And SGA, the fact that his team is this young and the second seed in the West, he's 3rd in the league in scoring, 31 points per game on 54, 38, and 88 splits, 6 assists to his 2 turnovers per game and 5 boards, while Shea's leading the league in steals. SGA is leading the league in steals. So it's hard to argue against him. Plus, it's also hard to argue against Luka Doncic. He's basically 34, 10, and 9 right now. So he's absolutely ridiculous. So, and that's again, that's why the lead guys on lead teams in both conferences really ain't in the MVP conversation, being Ant and Tatum, because their numbers just don't compare. And honestly, those 2 just aren't as good as those 3 guys right now. So yeah, I can't put Ant and Tatum in the conversation, or Donovan Mitchell for that matter, because those guys just aren't as good as those top 3 guys. But my sleeper, again, who can get back in this, is the guy I actually had winning preseason. It's the guy Joe has number 1. And it's Giannis, because the Bucks have looked bad, and I think that's kind of relatively bad. Obviously not bad; they're 3rd in the East, but they've looked bad, kind of based on our expectations of what they would look like. But I think they can turn it around, and I trust him and Dame, and I trust those supporting cast players. Notice how I didn't mention that I trust Doc. But they're 3rd in the East right now. And Giannis is 31, 11, and 6, a steal and a block on 62% shooting. So if they have a great second half and the Bucks end up 2nd in the East, I think Giannis would have a really good shot. But for me right now, I think it's those top 3, no question. And honestly, I normally have strong opinions one way or the other, between, this guy should be MVP. Last year, I thought it was Jokic all year, and I'm proved to be right in the playoffs. But I thought it was Jokic all year. But this year, I really don't have a strong opinion right now as to who should be the MVP, because I think all 3 of those guys that I mentioned are very deserving of it. I'm cool with any of them winning right now, because all of them are tremendous basketball players having tremendous seasons on good basketball teams. So I think any of them will be worthy of the award. What do you guys think?
I mean, I'll be honest with you. If Giannis can have a good remainder of the year, 25 games, he wins the MVP in my book. And this is why. Out of all the players we named, the Milwaukee Bucks are the only team that have one of those players that has a top 5 hardest strength of schedule going forward. They will face the Celtics twice, the Thunder twice, the Clippers twice, the Knicks, the Pelicans, and the Sixers twice.
Damn.
In the next 25 games. So if he can come out, dominate those games, I think that, and still keep his numbers up, do all the things that we know he can do, having that schedule, that's going to come into the conversation. I think if I look at this, let me scroll down here and find them real quick. The Nuggets are, where are they at? Where are you at, Denver? 14th. You look at the Mavericks are 19th. Oklahoma City Thunder are 21st in strength of schedule. He's the only player on a team that has a top 10 strength of schedule right now, outside of Kawhi Leonard, who is somewhere in the top 10 on some people's lists, who has got the 9th with the Clippers. to have that strength of schedule. And I think that's going to have to play into it a little bit. Especially, we've said the Nuggets have been coasting, and the fact they've been coasting and Jokic is putting up the numbers he's putting up is still insane.
Yeah.
I think that the fact that the Milwaukee Bucks have looked as bad as they have looked and like sort of out of sorts, and Giannis is still willing them to wins. That's why I have them at 1. It's going to be interesting to see though, because this is probably the closest MVP race in a long time.
Yeah, these next 25 games is going to determine the MVP. I feel like it's wide open for those 3 guys. In my honest opinion, even though I think Jokic should be the MVP, I don't think they're going to give it to him. I just don't think they're going to.
Wouldn't be surprised.
Go for him.
Give it to somebody new. I mean, that's kind of the curse of, being great. Like we've seen it with Giannis already. We saw it with LeBron for a long time. We saw it with, Jordan for a long time. Like LeBron and Jordan could have won 8, 9 MVPs if people were actually giving it to the MVP. But people just got tired of giving it to him, so like, oh, let's give it to, this guy or this guy or this guy who's had a good year, So yeah, 100%. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if they just decide, hey, we're not giving it to Jokic just because he's Jokic, he's already got 2. We'll give it to somebody else, which is 100% unfair, but hey, it's
just ask Shaq about how he feels about Steve Nash MVP.
Oh
right?
man,
yeah, for real.
Don't let that go.
It's the cost of being great. It's the cost of being great. People start to take you for granted, and then they're like, he's just having another Jokic year, 26, 12 and 9. So yeah, So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. So yeah, 100%. Yeah, so yeah, it's going to be interesting though. Like you guys mentioned, the last however many games is going to really determine who wins the league MVP. But finally, our last topic revolves around some of the league's most underrated teams, and there have been a lot of teams to catch the spotlight and look like contenders, but also some teams haven't gotten the shine, but also may be capable of making a run. So Joe, I'm going to you, man. Give me an underrated team in the NBA that can make a finals run.
Are they even considered underrated anymore? Like really? They shouldn't be. Like we do this every year. We've done this the last 3 years now.
Every time.
Miami Heat. The Miami Heat are in the play-in. Will they make the playoffs? Are they going to be there? Can they make it survive the play-in? And even if they do, they have to go against the number 1 seed, the best team in the NBA, the Milwaukee Bucks, or insert the Celtics here, and they're going to take them to 7. And it's like, Jesus, please God, no, never again. But it's going to happen. The Miami Heat are without a doubt the most terrifying play-in team ever. And it just seems like they're like, even Jimmy Butler, I think I think Jimmy Butler came out with a post the other day on Twitter, Instagram, something that says, it's almost that time again.
Yep.
And it's like, are you fucking kidding me, dude?
Yeah, dude.
Please God, no. Like, just be good. Just be good all year so we know you're going to be there. Don't play with our emotions like this. But yeah, I don't know how a team with such championship pedigree, all the things they've done, been there so many times with a roster that's lackluster and all of this, and yet they're still going to be the bane of our existence because they're going to show up, and no one wants to go down to Miami and play basketball in the playoffs. That is like we had the discussion before we started the recording. There are very few places that are playoff atmosphere type places like Miami, and it's insane. Like it is plus, let's be fair, the Miami, I'm pretty sure there's a nightclub down there in that stadium, so they just go get freaking shithouse, come out and root on their team, and they can go down there and like commercial breaks and get more drinks. Like that is how insane it is in Miami. And they got what they need. They have the best coach in the NBA, bar none. I mean,
yep.
Eric Spoelstra, to me, that guy has solidified his Hall of Fame case by showing he doesn't need Wade and LeBron and Bosh to carry him to a champion. He did what Doc Rivers couldn't. Doc Rivers proved he got carried. Eric Spoelstra proved he was vital.
Yes.
And I think that is the most underrated part about the Miami Heat sort of championship runs that they went on, that Eric Spoelstra doesn't get enough credit for how good of a coach he is. And I think that's kind of one of the things that we need to focus on there. But yeah, and the Miami Heat, I mean, I was going to be like, oh, hey, the Orlando Magic, maybe they can do something.
Nope.
Or maybe the Pacers, maybe they can get some defensive stuff figured out. Nope. It's the Miami Heat.
This has to be.
I was like, could you really? I was like, maybe you can't count out LeBron and the Lakers, or Steph Curry could make it. Nope, it's the Heat. Like, I literally sat here for 30 minutes before we got on the show, and I was like, trying to pick anyone but them. Couldn't do it.
It's hard to, and I think the reason why they're so underrated is because nobody's talking about it at all. Like everybody's just like, oh yeah, the Heat, whatever, like people are talking about, oh yeah, LeBron and the Lakers, they can make a run, or hey, you can never count out Curry, or hey, some of those younger teams in the East. But come on, man, like what are we doing? Like we've seen this movie before. Like we've seen the movie before, we know the ending. So yeah, they've got to be obviously one of the top. Even now being the 8th seed, they've got to be one of the top contenders, just because we've seen it so many times before from the Miami Heat. But Cecil, I'm kicking it to you, man. Give me an underrated team in the NBA that you think can make a run right now.
Man, I'm gonna say this: if LeBron makes it to we expect players like LeBron and Curry to make finals. That's like expecting them. That's like
right.
So they are automatically out of it to me, but I'm gonna disagree with you guys. Now, Kevin Durant and the Suns. No, I'm just kidding.
Wow, I was gonna say. Get
the fuck out of here, bro.
Don't stand a chance. But I'm gonna disagree though. I think. I mean, of course, the Heat should be the obvious answer, but I'm gonna go with the Knicks. I just think.
There you go.
I just think the way they've been playing, like I've been watching, like the Celtics.
Did you watch last night?
Yes. Yes.
Just want to make sure you check that one out too.
Man,
they're hurt though. They got to get healthy.
That's what I'm saying. That game they played last night, it felt like a playoff game with them being hurt. And Mitchell Robinson is expected to come back. I feel like they went 6 games with the Miami Heat without having the roster that they have now, with no OG, no DiVincenzo, no Bogdanovic. I don't know.
Yep.
Yeah. I know
Bogdanovic,
yeah. I know I butchered his name, but
it's expected on this segment. All right, like, trust me.
Yeah, Joe does.
I started that standard a long time ago.
Yeah, I'm not. At least I'm not Charles Barkley in it though. But but I feel like they
Don Blowfish.
they have the same type of like playing style as the Miami Heat. That grit and grind, half court game, like. That series between them and the Heat, it was a tough series. Like, it went 6 games. I feel like in the half court game, Thibs is a great defensive coach, and with the pieces that he have now, I feel like OG is going to be a pivotal piece when it comes playoff time. I feel like they can make a run. I feel like Bronson is playing out of his mind. Like, with all the things that people are saying about him, like a point guard can't be the number 1 guy on the defensive team. It's only been 2 times. I mean, a few times, like Isaiah, Steph, Magic Johnson, even though Magic was 6'9". I feel like, now I'm not going to say they're going to win a championship, but I think that could be a sleeper team that they can make a push towards the finals, just based off of the games that they had against the Celtics, and against the top teams, period. And
I mean, they play a style of basketball, and like if you look at pace in the NBA, like who plays the fastest pace and who plays the slowest pace, like the 2 teams we just mentioned, the Knicks and the Heat, they play 2 of the 3 slowest paces in the NBA. And what happens in the NBA playoffs? Yes. Game slows down. The pace slows down, and it turns into a half-court game. So these guys have been playing the entire season how the playoffs are going to be played. They've been playing a slow pace. That's why someone, even though I like him a lot, like Tyrese Halliburton, the Pacers, I don't know if they're going to have a lot of success, because they play such an up and down style that when you get to the playoffs and the game slows down, are they going to be able to play that same way? So we know teams like the Knicks and the Heat are going to be able to play in the playoffs because they play such a slow pace. Denver plays a really slow pace. So those are teams that you're going to have a lot more faith in come playoff time, because they play such playoff type basketball already. But for me, listen, okay, I've got 2 that I want to talk about. one in the East, and one in the West. Okay, my Western Conference team, I haven't heard a single peep from anyone about them all year, not even on today's episode. Okay, but preseason, we were all saying if this team stays healthy, they could make a run. They're very talented. They've got 3 stars. They've got a deep roster. Okay, well, they're pretty healthy right now, and I think a run for them is on the board. Okay, I'm going to go with the Pelicans. Zion's only missed 11 games, which is still quite a bit for everyone else, but not a lot for him. Okay, so Brandon Ingram, one of the most underrated players in basketball right now. Same with CJ McCollum as a great third option as well. Love Willie Green as the head coach. They're complementary pieces as well. Herb Jones, Trey Murphy, Valanciunas, Grand Theft Alvarado, Dyson Daniels, Jordan Hawkins, both contributing as rookies. Okay, that's a really good rotation. And assuming they stay healthy for the remainder of the season, these guys are going to be a problem in the Western Conference because they have guys who, like I just mentioned, they can score in the half court. Zion, BI, and CJ, they can all score in the half court, and they play defense as well. They're 6th in team defensive rating, 7th in the NBA in net rating and point differential. So for a team that's 5th in the West and could be argued as a top 6 or a 7 team in basketball right now, they aren't discussed at all as a threat. So I think this team could make a surprise conference finals run this year. I'm not predicting it, but I wouldn't be surprised by it. And if they face Minnesota, Oklahoma City, or even the Clippers in the first round, don't be shocked if the Pelicans have either a 7-game series or they eliminate them, because the Pelicans have a really, really good basketball team if healthy. So I wouldn't be shocked by the Pelicans, but my Eastern Conference team, I mean, they just had – it's a team that just had a brawl with the Pelicans the other day. And listen, Miami Heat, like, can we just learn from our mistakes with the Miami Heat, people? Like, do not fall for the trap. Stop falling for the trap. Like, oh, Miami's the 8th seed right now, ups and downs through the regular season. They don't look the same. They don't look like a championship contender. You know what Miami team that sounds like? All of them, all the time, especially last year where they ended up in the NBA Finals. So this team doesn't care about the regular season. They know they're in the playoffs already, and they ain't scared of anyone when they get there. But on the other hand, teams will get scared of them. Like I said, right now, the Heat are the 8th seed. Obviously, the round 1 is 8 versus 1. And as a Celtics fan, I know, Joe, I know you already know you aren't very confident with that round 1 matchup, Miami versus Celtics in round 1. Okay. If Karan was here and Karan got them in round 2 for his Knicks, okay, I don't think he would be very confident in that round 2 matchup. Because again, last year they knocked both of them out. Okay. So I'm just saying, I ain't getting lulled to sleep by this team again, because Jimmy Butler, Eric Spoelstra, and Pat Riley are not to be slept on. So Western Conference, don't sleep on the Pelicans. Obviously, Eastern Conference, do not sleep on the Miami Heat. What you guys think?
So, I mean, you talk about pace, right? I'm going to give you a rundown currently of the pace leaders on the slowest pace. Chicago Bulls are number 1. They're a playoff team at 96, almost 97. Then you got the Knicks, who are just a 100th point behind them at 96.95. Miami Heat at 97.4. Denver Nuggets, Orlando Magic, Minnesota Timberwolves. Those are all playoff teams. Those are the slowest paces right there, and they're all right there. Then you have the Cleveland Cavaliers at 98.4, the LA Clippers at 98.52, and the Boston Celtics 98.76. That tells you right there that the best teams are built for playoff basketball, because playoff basketball is not one full court. It's 1.5 court, just like Matt said. So if your team is in, I just listed your team, and the Pelicans aren't far off either. I think, let me scroll down here. They're at 99.34. So the Suns right there. So, I mean, they're just about everybody who's a playoff team has a pace under 100.
Yeah.
Right. And then you look at, like you said, the Indiana Pacers, 102.68.
Yeah.
They're running. They are the second to last team, and the only team worse than them is the worst team in the NBA in the Washington Wizards. At a pace, right? At 103.72. So just, take that into account here, people. The Miami Heat are going to be tough. The New York Knicks are going to be tough. The teams we have listed here are going to be tough outs, not because they're great basketball teams. They have the best roster like the Celtics. They play every day like it's playoff basketball.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's what I believe, that, like, we all know, like I said in the last episode, playoff basketball is different than regular season basketball. It's a 100% completely different game. Like, players, that's why LeBron was so successful in the playoffs last year. You get, like, even the vets, they get the rest between games. Like, you got to think about, you got to factor that in. That's why teams like the Clippers is going to be dangerous. The Pelicans, I was asleep. That's a good one, man. I didn't think about that. Like the top teams.
We haven't talked about them. Yeah.
Pelicans got their numbers. Like if we watch the games that they play against the top teams, like I'm interested to know that stat. Like how do they do against the top teams? Because man, that's like Herb Jones had 7 steals last night. I think. Like I love the Pelicans, man. I think we got some good picks out of here. Yeah, all of those teams could easily make a finals push. Like if we just thinking about how it goes in the postseason.
And that's the beauty of the NBA. There's so many talented teams that, you know, one team has an injury in the playoffs, you know, one team just doesn't perform, doesn't show up. And there's, especially in the West, like another team's going to show up and knock them out, you know, like they're the whole Western Conference playoffs this year is going to be filled with teams who are good enough to make a run. So it's going to be extremely interesting to watch, and kind of the same thing out East. I mean, are we counting the Bucks out for making a run? Are we counting, you know, the Sixers with the healthy Embiid out for making a run? You know, it's there's a lot of teams out in each conference that we can fathom, like, hey, this team can make a run, you know. So that's what makes the NBA playoffs so beautiful, and that's what makes the NBA in general so beautiful. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. But yeah, there is definitely a few teams that have not been talked about at all that we could look up come May and June and be like, oh shit, here they are again, you know. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see. But with that, that is going to be it for us here today for the Brickhouse. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We appreciate all the feedback. Give us your underrated teams down below. Give us your MVPs and faces of the franchise down below. Okay, again, thank you to Lids for sponsoring this video. Shout out to the rest of our sponsors. That's Coffee Bros, Vivid Seats, SportMemorabilia.com, Fubo TV, Pillow Fight, and more. If you want to check out any or all of our links, the sponsors are in the description. And be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms as well at The House Call Sports. We got Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, Twitter. We've got threads. We've got merch. You can meet our crew. We've got blogs up on our website. We've also got a bunch of all of our segments up are on our website as well. Our website is www.thehousecall.com. And that's going to be it for us. Peace. Derek White. Jeez. God, that's your team. What do you, like,
dude, I am on one right now, dude. I'm telling you, I got brain fog. I don't know what's going on with me.